Hello, my name is Nicole Triplehorn, and this is my Chapter 3 Nurtureshock presentation, where I will be discussing some of the reasons as to why white parents don't talk about race. For decades, it was believed that children would only see race if and when society pointed it out to them. However, since then, child development researchers have found that this is not the case, arguing that children are capable of seeing racial differences just as they are capable of seeing differences between the colors pink and blue. We teach children that pink is for girls and that blue is for boys, but we leave the different skin colors they see for them to figure out on their own. The big question parents seem to be facing is, do we make it worse or do we make it better by calling attention to race? Parents fear that even positive statements about race will encourage their children to see divisions within society. So what are parents doing when race comes up? Well, parents tend to make vague statements, such as, "we are all equal," rather than providing their children with specific information on why other kids may have a different skin color. Parents often think that what their kids will see is what their kids will think is normal, and that this is the best way to teach their kids that color doesn't matter. A 2007 study found that out of 17,000 families with kindergartners, 45% of all ethnicities said they'd never, or almost never, discuss race issues with their children. It was also found that non-white parents were 3 times more likely to discuss race than white parents. According to Bigler, kids are going to form these preferences about racial differences on their own because they are developmentally prone to in-group favoritism. At a young age, children categorize everything from food to toys to people. But since it takes years for children to use more than one attribute successfully, they rely on the attribute which is most clearly visible. Therefore, once a child identifies someone as most closely resembling himself or herself, the child will like that person the most. This leads to essentialism, which is the tendency to assume that one's own group shares characteristics, such as being nice or smart. This also leads a child to think that the things he or she does not like or characterize with belongs to those who look the least similar to him or her. Parents may think that when raising their child with a fair amount of exposure to people of other races and cultures, the environment becomes the message. But providing children with a multicultural environment without also providing them with the opportunity to specifically discuss this environment is not going to keep them from forming unhealthy categories for those of a different race. In fact, it has been found that the more diverse a school is, the more kids self-segregate by race. This information is applicable to social work practitioners because parents and teachers do not always know how to talk about racial differences or racial issues with kids. It is important to both parents and teachers that kids do not see or create divisions within society. And so it is therefore also important for social workers to understand that kids are not colorblind in order to help them interact with the multicultural society they live in.
Created using Powtoon.